Get some rest. I have calls to make. The door closed before I could answer. I sat there in my wedding hanbok, white silk pooled around me like snow, staring at the space where my husband had just stood. The candles flickered. Outside, rain began to tap against the windows of the glass mansion. His family's estate, perched on a hill overlooking Seoul like a monument to everything I'd never be part of. They say marriage begins with a vow. Mine ended with a closed door. My name is Ha-Joon, 26 years old Omega novelist, though no one in Seo-Min's family cared about that last part. To them, I was a solution. A contract signed between families when my father's publishing house needed capital and the Seo family needed an heir. I'd agreed because I thought I could learn to love him. I'd seen Seo-Min once before the wedding, at a charity book reading. He stood in the back, arms crossed, watching me read a passage about loneliness. Afterward, he bought every copy on the table and left without a word. I thought that meant something. I was wrong. The first week I woke alone, made breakfast alone, ate alone. Seo-Min left before dawn and returned after midnight, his footsteps echoing through marble hallways that swallowed sound like a tomb. The second week, I tried waiting up for him. He came home at 2 a.m, tie loosened, smelling of expensive whiskey and exhaustion. I was sitting in the living room with tea and a book. "You're still awake," he said, not quite a question. "I thought we could talk." He glanced at his watch. "I have an early meeting." Seo-Min. Ha-Joon. His voice was soft but final. "This arrangement works best if we respect each other's space. You have everything you need here. Use it." He walked past me toward his study. I didn't try again. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe to Obsessed Hearts, and tell me where you're watching from. The third week, his mother came for tea. Mrs. Seo was elegant in the way glaciers are elegant, beautiful, cold, and capable of crushing anything in her path. She sat across from me in the sunroom, stirring sugar into her cup with mechanical precision. "You're settling in well, I hope." "Yes, ma'am." "Good." Seo-Min is very focused on his work. "The company is at a critical juncture. I trust you understand the importance of not being a distraction." I set down my cup carefully. "I'm his husband, not a distraction." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. But there are different kinds of marriages, Ha-Joon. Some are built on passion, others on duty. Ours is a family that values the latter." She left an hour later, and I realized the truth. I hadn't married Seo-Min. I'd married into a system that had already decided what I was worth. Nothing. The fourth week, there was a charity gala. I wore a black suit Seo-Min's stylist had picked out. We arrived separately. He was giving the opening remarks. I was attending as a guest. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and champagne flutes, and people who measured their worth in stock portfolios. I saw him on stage, commanding the room with the kind of presence that made everyone lean forward. He was magnetic, untouchable. Afterward, I found him near the bar. "You did well up there," I said. He glanced at me, surprised. "You came. I'm your husband." Something flickered in his eyes, guilt maybe, or regret, but it vanished before I could name it. A photographer approached, camera raised. "Mr. Seo, can we get a photo with your partner?" Seo-Min's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, his hand hovering near my waist but not quite touching. The camera flashed. The moment the photographer left, he moved away. I reached for his hand. He pulled back. "Not here." 2 words. They carved out everything soft in my chest and left only the shape of the wound. I stopped trying after that. The 5th week, I started writing again. Late at night when the mansion felt less like a prison and more like a stage set abandoned after the show ended. I wrote about loneliness, about wanting to be chosen, about loving someone who looked through you like glass. The 6th week, I realized I was pregnant. I stood in the bathroom, staring at the test, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped it. 2 lines. Clear as daylight. Clear as the truth I'd been avoiding. Seo-Min and I had shared a bed exactly once, on our wedding night, before he'd pulled away like he'd been burned and never touched me again. But once had been enough. I called his office. His secretary answered on the 3rd ring. Mr. Seo requested no personal calls during board season. "Can I take a message?" I hung up. That night, I waited for him in his study. He came home at 1 a.m, loosening his collar as he walked through the door. He froze when he saw me sitting in his chair. "Ha-Joon, I'm pregnant." Silence. Long enough that I could hear my own heartbeat. Then, "Are you sure?" "Yes." He walked to the window, hands in his pockets, staring out at the city lights. This complicates things. Complicates things. Not joy. Not fear. Not even anger. Just complication. I see, I said quietly. We'll need to discuss this with my mother. There are protocols, medical care, public statements, legal considerations. Stop. He turned. I'm not a protocol, I said. My voice cracked. I'm your husband. And this is your child. Can you look at me? Can you say something that doesn't sound like a board meeting? For a moment, I thought he might. His expression softened. His mouth opened. Then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. I need to take this. He walked out. I sat there in his study, surrounded by leather-bound books and family portraits where everyone smiled without warmth, and I understood. I would raise this child alone. Even if I stayed in this house, even if I played the role of the dutiful spouse, I would be alone. So I made a choice. I packed a single suitcase, clothes, my laptop, a photo of my parents. I left everything else. The designer wardrobe, the credit cards, the life I'd been handed like a script I never auditioned for. On Seo-Min's desk, I left a letter. Seo-Min, I loved you before I even knew your face. I thought that would be enough. But love isn't a one-person job, and I can't keep building a home in someone who's already decided I don't belong. I'm leaving. Not because I'm angry, though I am. Not because I'm hurt, though I am. But because I won't raise our child in a house where I'm invisible. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I hope it's worth it. Ha-Joon. I walked out at dawn. The rain had stopped. The sky was pale and new. I didn't look back at the glass mansion on the hill. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to be seen. And if Seo-Min couldn't do that, I'd find a life where I didn't need him to. Appa, why don't I have another daddy like my friends? I looked up from the manuscript I was editing. Min-jae sat at the kitchen table, crayon in hand, drawing what looked like a family of dinosaurs. He was 5 years old, with dark eyes that saw too much and a smile that could break through any wall I'd built. You have all the love you need right here, I said, reaching over to ruffle his hair. He tilted his head, considering. But teacher said families come in all shapes. Some have 2 daddies. Some have 1. Some have grandparents. He looked at me. We're just us. Just us is pretty good, don't you think? He nodded, but something in his expression lingered. A question he was too young to ask but old enough to feel. We lived in Busan now, in a small apartment overlooking Haeundae Beach. The rent was manageable. The neighbors were kind. I'd published 3 novels under a pen name, lgbt, and the modest royalties kept us afloat. Min-jae went to a local kindergarten where he was obsessed with dinosaurs and refused to eat anything green. It was simple. Quiet. Safe. Everything Seoul wasn't. I hadn't seen Seo-Min in 5 years. Hadn't heard from him. Not a call, not a letter, not even a lawyer's notice. It was like I'd vanished from his life as completely as he'd wanted me to in the first place. Some nights, I wondered if he even remembered me. Most nights, I told myself it didn't matter. My phone rang. I answered. Hello, Ha-Joon. It's Min Seo. My editor's voice was bright, breathless. I have news. Good news or brace yourself news? Your book won the Seoul Literary Prize. I froze. What? Fading echoes. The judges unanimously selected it. The ceremony is in 2 weeks. Black tie event, press coverage, the whole thing. She paused. It's hosted by Seo Enterprises. My stomach dropped. Ha-Joon, you still there? Yeah. I'm here. I know it's in Seoul, but this is huge for your career. You don't have to go if you're not comfortable, but I'll think about it. I hung up before she could press further. Min-jae looked up from his drawing. Appa, you okay? I forced a smile. Yeah, baby. Just work stuff. That night, after Min-jae fell asleep, I stood on the balcony and stared at the ocean. The prize meant recognition. Credibility. A chance to finally publish under my real name instead of hiding behind a pseudonym. But it also meant going back. Facing the city that had swallowed me whole. Maybe facing him. I booked the train tickets the next morning. The Seoul Literary Center was exactly as I remembered, glass and steel and ambition wrapped in architectural elegance. I arrived early, Min-jae holding my hand, wide-eyed at the chandeliers and the people in expensive suits. My babysitter had canceled last minute. I'd had no choice but to bring him. Appa, is this where rich people live? Min-jae whispered. Just where they have parties. A woman in a headset approached. Lee Ji-woo. That's me. You're seated in the 3rd row. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Congratulations on your win. She handed me a program. I scanned it. Opening remarks. Seo-Min CEO, Seo Enterprises. My breath caught. Min-jae tugged my sleeve. Appa, can I sit with you? Of course. We found our seats. The room filled quickly, writers, publishers, journalists. Everyone glittering and important. I felt like an imposter in my borrowed suit, holding my son's hand too tightly. The lights dimmed. A man walked onto the stage. Seo-Min. He looked the same, sharp jawline, perfect posture, eyes that could command a room without effort. But there was something different too. Shadows under his eyes. A tightness around his mouth. He looked tired in a way that expensive suits couldn't hide. He began speaking. Literature is the architecture of the soul. It builds worlds where we can confront our failures, our regrets, our unspoken truths. Tonight, we honor those brave enough to put those truths on paper. His voice was smooth, practiced. I wondered if he meant any of it, or if this was just another board meeting in disguise. Min-jae squirmed in his seat. Appa, I need the bathroom. Can you wait? It's urgent. I sighed. Okay. Stay close. We slipped out of our row just as Seo-Min announced the first award. The bathroom was down a long hallway, past framed photographs of past winners. Min-jae ran ahead. Slow down. He stopped, spinning around with a grin. You're too slow, Appa. When we returned, the applause was deafening. They were announcing my category. And the sole literary prize for fiction goes to Lee Ji-woo for Fading Echoes. Min-jae's eyes went wide. Appa, that's you. I walked down the aisle, heart pounding. The stage lights were blinding. Seo-Min stood at the podium, holding a glass plaque. He extended it toward me. Our eyes met. Recognition slammed into him like a physical blow. His hand faltered. The plaque nearly slipped. Congratulations, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I took the award. My fingers brushed his. Electric. Wrong. Familiar. Thank you, I managed. I turned to the microphone, hands shaking. I want to thank Appa. Min-jae's voice cut through the room. He'd escaped his seat. He was running toward the stage, weaving between chairs, his little legs pumping fast. He climbed the stairs, breathing hard, and stopped in front of Seo-Min. He pointed. Appa, why do you look like me? The room went silent. Cameras flashed. Murmurs rippled through the audience like a wave. Seo-Min stared at Min-jae. Then at me. Then back at Min-jae. I saw the moment it clicked. The shape of the boy's eyes, the curve of his jaw, the way he stood with one hand on his hip just like Seo-Min did when he was thinking. Ha-Joon, Seo-Min breathed. Before I could respond, a woman's voice cut through the chaos. What is the meaning of this? Mrs. Seo stood in the front row, her face a mask of controlled fury. I grabbed Min-jae's hand. We're leaving. Wait, Seo-Min reached for me. I pulled away. Don't. I lifted Min-jae into my arms and walked off the stage. The crowd parted. Whispers followed me like smoke. I didn't stop until I reached the lobby. Outside, rain poured. Of course it was raining. I set Min-jae down, kneeling to his level. You okay, baby? He nodded, confused. Did I do something wrong? No, you didn't do anything wrong. But that man, he looked sad. My throat closed. It's complicated. Footsteps echoed behind me. Ha-Joon. Wait. Please. I turned. Seo-Min stood in the doorway, rain soaking his shoulders. He looked at Min-jae, then at me, and something cracked in his expression. I didn't know, he said. You didn't want to know. That's not, he stopped. Started again. Can we talk? Somewhere private. There's nothing to talk about. Ha-Joon, he's my son. Now he is? My voice shook. Where were you 5 years ago when I told you I was pregnant? When I waited for you to care? When I left and you never came after me? He ran a hand through his hair, water dripping down his face. I thought you wanted to leave. You thought what was convenient. Just like always. Min-jae tugged my hand. Appa, I'm cold. I picked him up, holding him close. We're going home. Please. Seo-Min's voice cracked. Just give me a chance to explain. Would you forgive someone who abandoned you? Subscribe to Obsessed Hearts and comment where you're watching from. You had 6 years to explain, I said quietly. I'm done waiting. I walked into the rain. Behind me, I heard him call my name. I didn't turn around. The train back to Busan was delayed. We sat in a cafe near the station, Min-jae eating a chocolate muffin while I stared at my phone. 17 missed calls. All from the same number. I blocked it. Appa. Min-jae's voice was small. Is that man really my other daddy? I set down my coffee. Yeah, baby. He is. Does he not want me? My heart shattered. It's not that. It's grown-up stuff. Complicated. But he looked like he wanted to cry. I didn't have an answer for that. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I need you to know, I never stopped thinking about you. Seo-Min. I deleted it. Another text came through immediately. I'll respect your boundaries. But please, let me at least provide for him. He deserves that. I typed back. He deserves a father who chose him. You didn't. Don't pretend money fixes that. I turned off my phone. Min-jae fell asleep on my shoulder on the train ride home. I watched the city lights fade into darkness, replaced by the quiet countryside. I'd spent 5 years building a life without Seo-Min. I wasn't going to let one night undo that. But as the train rocked gently and Min-jae's breath evened out against my chest, I couldn't stop thinking about the look in Seo-Min's eyes when he saw our son. Like he'd just realized what he'd lost. And for the first time in 5 years, I wondered if part of him had been lost too. Mr. Lee Ha-Joon? The man at my door wore an expensive suit and carried a leather briefcase. Behind him, a black sedan idled at the curb. Who's asking? I'm Attorney Kwan, representing Seo Enterprises. He pulled out a manila envelope. I've been instructed to deliver this personally. I didn't take it. I'm not interested. It's a formal request for paternity testing and a preliminary custody arrangement proposal. Mr. Seo wants to establish legal rights. I slammed the door. Through the wood, I heard. The documents will be filed with the court regardless. This was a courtesy. His footsteps retreated. The sedan drove away. Min-jae peeked out from his bedroom. Who was that? Nobody important. I crouched down, forcing a smile. Get your shoes on. We're going to be late for school. But my hands shook as I packed his lunch. The legal papers arrived 3 days later via registered mail. I sat at the kitchen table, reading through the dense language. Paternity test. Custody evaluation. Visitation schedule. Financial support obligations. Everything clinical. Transactional. Just like our marriage had been. I called the number at the bottom of the letter. Attorney Kwan answered. Mr. Lee. I'm glad you. Tell Seo-Min I'm not doing the DNA test. Mr. Lee, it's standard procedure. He doesn't need science to claim what he abandoned. If he wants to be a father, he can start by acting like one. Not hiding behind lawyers. I hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Min-jae's question in the cafe. Does he not want me? The answer should have been simple. But I'd seen Seo-Min's face at the gala. The shock. The recognition. The way his voice had cracked when he said please. Maybe it wasn't that simple. The next morning, I dropped Min-jae at kindergarten as usual. His teacher, Ms. Park, waved from the doorway. A gentle woman in her 50s who treated every child like her own. Ha-Joon, can I speak with you for a moment? My stomach tightened. Is something wrong? Not wrong, exactly. But there was a man here yesterday afternoon. Said he was Min-jae's father. He brought lunch for him. What? I didn't let him take Min-jae anywhere, of course. But he sat in the visiting area, and they ate together. Drew some pictures. Min-jae seemed happy. I felt the ground shift beneath me. Did he say anything to you? Just that he wanted to spend time with his son. He was very polite. Left his contact information in case you wanted to reach him. She handed me a business card. Seo-Min-jae, CEO, Seo Enterprises. His direct line was handwritten on the back. I should have called you first, Ms. Park said. I'm sorry. He had identification, and Min-jae recognized him from the photo you have on your desk. I don't have a photo of him on my desk. She frowned. The one in Min-jae's backpack. He showed it to me. I didn't wait to hear more. I walked into the classroom. Min-jae's cubby was third from the left. I opened his backpack. Inside, tucked between his dinosaur notebook and a half-eaten granola bar, was a photograph. Me and Seo-Min. On our wedding day. I'd left every photo behind when I moved to Busan. I'd never shown Min-jae what his other father looked like. But somehow he had this. That afternoon, Seo-Min was waiting outside the kindergarten. He leaned against a black car, hands in his pockets, looking like he hadn't slept in days. When he saw me, he straightened. Ha-Joon. I walked past him toward the school entrance. He followed. I'm not here to fight. Then why are you here? To see him. Even if it's just for a few minutes. You can't just show up. I know. His voice was quiet. I should have asked. But I was afraid you'd say no. I would have. Exactly. Min-jae burst through the door, backpack bouncing. He saw Seo-Min and his face lit up. "You came back." He ran toward him. Seo-Min dropped to one knee, catching him in an awkward hug. I watched my son throw his arms around a man he barely knew, and something twisted in my chest. "I brought crayons," Seo-Min said. "Thought maybe we could draw together again. Can we appa?" Min-jae turned to me, hopeful. I wanted to say no. To protect him from the inevitable disappointment when Seo-Min got bored or busy or realized fatherhood wasn't a part-time hobby. But I looked at my son's face and couldn't. "1 hour," I said. "At the park." We sat on a bench while Min-jae played on the swings. Seo-Min had brought a sketch pad and colored pencils, expensive ones, the kind that came in wooden boxes. "He likes dinosaurs," I said. I noticed. Seo-Min watched Min-jae pump his legs, laughing as he swung higher. "He has your laugh. He has your stubbornness." A ghost of a smile touched Seo-Min's lips. "I'm sorry about the lawyer. I don't know what I thought, that doing things properly would make up for doing them late. It doesn't." "I know." Silence stretched between us. Not comfortable, but not hostile either. "Why did you really come back?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He pulled out a piece of paper from his jacket, worn at the edges, like it had been folded and unfolded many times. "My letter. The one I'd left 6 years ago. I read this every day for a year," he said. "Then I put it away because it hurt too much. Then I read it again. And again." He looked at me. "You wrote that you wanted to be seen. I didn't understand what that meant until you were gone. And now you do?" "No. But I want to learn." Min-jae ran over, breathless. "Look what I drew." It was a T-Rex. Terrible and perfect. Seo-Min smiled, genuine, unguarded. And I saw a glimpse of the man I'd fallen for before the wedding. "It's incredible," Seo-Min said. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Min-jae asked. "I don't know much about them. I can teach you." For the next hour, I watched my son explain the difference between herbivores and carnivores while Seo-Min listened like it was the most important lecture he'd ever heard. He asked questions, laughed at Min-jae's dramatic roaring, drew a stegosaurus that looked more like a hedgehog. And I realized something terrifying. Seo-Min wasn't pretending. He genuinely wanted this. Over the next 2 weeks, Seo-Min showed up every day. He brought lunch, helped with homework, learned the names of every dinosaur in Min-jae's collection. He never pushed, never overstayed, always asked permission before taking Min-jae anywhere. It should have made me feel better. Instead, it made me furious. Because where was this man 6 years ago? Where was this patience, this effort, this care when I needed it? One evening, after Seo-Min left, I threw a plate against the wall. It shattered. Min-jae was already asleep. I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by ceramic shards, and finally let myself cry. I didn't hear the door open. Ha-Joon. I spun around. Seo-Min stood in the doorway, drenched from rain I hadn't noticed starting. "What are you doing here?" I forgot Min-jae's drawing. He wanted me to keep it. He held up a piece of paper. Then he saw my face. "What happened?" "Get out." "Ha-Joon." I said get out. He didn't move. "Talk to me." "Talk to you? Now you want to talk." I laughed, bitter. "Where were you when I needed you to talk? When I was alone in that house, invisible, carrying your child and too afraid to even call you because your secretary told me not to bother you." "I know. You don't know. You don't get to show up and play hero now. You don't get to be the father you should have been from the start and act like that erases 6 years. Would you forgive someone who mistook your pain for love? Comment below. You're right." His voice was raw. "You're absolutely right. Then why are you still here?" "Because I can't leave." "Not again." He stepped closer. "I knew you were pregnant." The world stopped. "What?" "I knew." His hands shook. "You told me, and I knew, he took a breath. "My father found out before you did. He had the house doctor run tests during your last checkup. He threatened to destroy your family's publishing house if I didn't distance myself. He wanted an heir, but on his terms. A clean, controlled narrative. I felt like I'd been punched. You knew. He said if I stayed close to you, if I showed any attachment, he'd ruin your father. Make sure no publisher in Korea would touch his work. Your family would lose everything. So you chose his approval over me. I chose your safety. I thought," his voice cracked. "I thought if I pushed you away, you'd leave. Start over. Be free of my family. And when I did leave, I wanted to follow you." Tears slid down his face. "Every day. But I thought, if you wanted me to find you, you would have told me where you were going. You never looked." "I did. For 2 years. But you covered your tracks too well. And maybe, he swallowed hard, maybe part of me thought you were better off. I stepped back. My legs hit the counter. You're telling me this now? I should have told you 6 years ago. I should have fought my father. I should have chosen you. He looked at me, devastated. I was a coward. I've been one for 6 years. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. Not unless you tell me there's no chance, no possibility that you could ever forgive me. The rain pounded against the window. The kitchen was too small, too bright, too full of everything I'd been holding back. I don't know if I can, I whispered. Then let me earn it. However long it takes. He reached into his pocket and pulled out another envelope. This is the custody paperwork. I'm withdrawing it. No DNA test. No legal fight. You're his father. You've been his father. I'm just hoping you'll let me be one too. I took the envelope. My hands were shaking. I'm not asking you to forgive me tonight, Seo-Min said. I'm just asking you not to shut the door yet. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Seo-Min's mother. I answered. Mrs. Seo. Ha-Joon. We need to talk about this situation. I'm prepared to file for custody on behalf of the Seo family. That child deserves proper care. He has proper care. A single-parent income? A rented apartment? Don't be naive. I'm offering you a settlement. 500 million won. You walk away, and Min Jae receives the resources and education he deserves. The line went silent except for my breathing. You want me to sell my son? I'm offering you both a better future. Go to hell. I hung up. Seo-Min stared at me. What did she say? She wants to buy Min Jae. I laughed hollow. Guess your family hasn't changed. His jaw tightened. I'll handle her. Don't bother. I've dealt with worse. But even as I said it, I felt the walls closing in. Mrs. Seo had resources. Lawyers. Influence. If she decided to fight me, how long could I actually hold out? Seo-Min must have seen it on my face. I won't let her take him. Why should I believe you? Because this time I'm choosing you. Both of you. He met my eyes. I don't care what my family thinks. I don't care about the company. I care about the fact that I have a son who draws dinosaurs and laughs like you and deserves better than a father who only shows up when it's convenient. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Mother, if you file for custody, I'll resign from Seo Enterprises and make sure every journalist in Seoul knows why. Your move. He hung up. We stood there, rain drumming against glass, surrounded by broken ceramic and broken promises. I need time, I said finally. Take all the time you need. He turned to leave. Seo-Min. He stopped. Min Jae asked me today if you were going to disappear like the daddies in his storybooks. I swallowed hard. Don't make him wonder. Don't make promises you can't keep. I won't. He left his umbrella by the door and walked into the rain. I watched him go, then looked down at the envelope in my hands. Maybe forgiveness wasn't something I could decide tonight. But maybe, just maybe, I could decide not to shut the door completely. Not yet. Appa, he's crying. I looked up from my laptop. Min Jae stood at my bedroom door, clutching the silver cufflink he'd somehow kept hidden for 3 months. Who's crying, baby? The other Appa. In my dream. His eyes were wet. He was calling my name, but I couldn't find him. I set the laptop aside and lifted him onto the bed. It was just a dream. But what if he's sad for real? I pulled him close. Outside, dawn was breaking over the ocean. Why would you think that? He hasn't come to see me in 6 days. 6 days. I'd been counting too. After the confrontation in my kitchen, after his mother's threat, after everything, Seo-Min had simply stopped showing up. No calls. No texts. Nothing. I'd told myself it was for the best. That he'd finally realized playing father was harder than signing checks. But Min Jae's drawing tablet was filled with pictures for him. Dinosaurs with speech bubbles saying, "Come back." Family portraits with 3 stick figures instead of 2. Maybe he's busy with work, I said. Or maybe he doesn't want me anymore. The words hit like a blade. That's not true. Then where is he? I didn't have an answer. That afternoon, my editor called. Ha-Joon, have you seen the news? What news? Min Jae resigned from Seo Enterprises. Effective immediately. It's all over the business section. My heart stopped. What? There's a press conference happening right now. You should watch. I pulled up the live stream on my phone. Seo-Min stood at a podium, cameras flashing. He looked thinner, exhausted, but his voice was steady. I'm stepping down as CEO to focus on personal matters that require my full attention. My family has built this company on the principle that legacy matters most. But I've learned that some legacies aren't worth the cost. A reporter shouted. Is this about the child from the literary gala? Seo-Min's jaw tightened. My personal life is not up for discussion. But I will say this, I've spent 6 years prioritizing the wrong things. I don't intend to make that mistake again. Another reporter. Your mother issued a statement saying you're unfit to lead. Do you have a response? My mother is entitled to her opinion. I'm entitled to my choices. He walked off the stage. The stream ended. I sat there, phone shaking in my hand. He'd done it. He'd actually walked away from everything. For us. 3 days later, a letter arrived. Not delivered by courier or lawyer. Just a simple envelope in my mailbox, addressed in handwriting I recognized. Ha-Joon, I know I said I'd give you time, but I need you to understand why I've stayed away these past days. I resigned because I needed to prove, to you, to Min-jae, to myself, that I meant what I said. That I'm choosing you both over everything else. But I also realized something. Showing up isn't enough if I'm still the same person who hurt you. So I've been seeing a therapist. Working through why I let fear control me for so long. Why I thought protecting you meant pushing you away. Why I believed I didn't deserve to be happy. I don't have all the answers yet. Maybe I never will. But I'm trying. I'm renting an apartment in Busan. Not close to you. I'm not trying to pressure you. Just close enough that if Min-jae wants to see me, I'm here. If you need me, I'm here. I'll wait as long as it takes. Seo-Min. At the bottom, an address. Min-jae appeared beside me. What's that? A letter. From your other appa. His eyes went wide. Can we see him? I looked at my son, at the hope written across his face, at the cufflink still clutched in his small hand. And I realized I'd been so focused on protecting him from potential hurt that I'd forgotten something important. He deserved to know his father. Even if I was still figuring out how to forgive him. Yeah, I said. We can see him. The apartment was modest. 3rd floor, ocean view, furniture that looked like it came from a catalog, functional but impersonal. Seo-Min answered the door in jeans and a sweater. No suit. No polish. Just a man who looked like he hadn't slept well in weeks. Min-jae. His voice broke on the name. My son launched himself forward. Seo-Min caught him, dropping to his knees, holding him like he was afraid to let go. I thought you left, Min-jae said into his shoulder. Never. I'm sorry I was gone. I won't do that again. I stood in the doorway, watching them. Something in my chest cracked open. Seo-Min looked up at me over Min-jae's head. Thank you for coming. He missed you. Just him. I didn't answer. We stayed for dinner. Seo-Min had clearly tried to cook. There were burnt vegetables and overcooked rice, and a store-bought cake he claimed he'd made himself until Min-jae pointed out the price sticker. It was a disaster. It was perfect. After Min-jae fell asleep on the couch, Seo-Min carried him to the guest room and tucked him in with a gentleness that made my throat tight. We stood in the hallway, speaking in whispers. You're really seeing a therapist? I asked. Twice a week. Turns out I have issues with control and emotional avoidance. Who knew? I almost smiled. How's it going? Hard. But necessary. He leaned against the wall. I'm learning that I can't undo the past. I can only try to be different going forward. And your family? My mother cut me off financially. Removed me from the family registry. I haven't spoken to my father since the resignation. Seo-Min. I don't regret it. His eyes met mine. I regret a lot of things. But leaving that company? Choosing this? I don't regret it for a second. Have you ever loved again after loss? Share your story in the comments. Silence settled between us. Not uncomfortable. Just heavy with everything unsaid. I'm still angry at you, I said finally. I know. And I don't know if I can ever go back to who I was. The person who loved you without question. I don't want you to. That person deserved better than what I gave him. So what do you want? He looked at me, really looked at me, the way he never had during our marriage. Like I was something worth studying. Worth knowing. I want to start over. Not as the people we were, but as the people we're becoming. I want to earn your trust. I want to be the father Min-jae deserves. And if someday, maybe, you decide you can love me again, I want to be someone worthy of that love. My eyes burned. That's a lot to ask. I know, but I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I'm just asking you to let me try. I thought about the last 6 years. The nights I'd cried myself to sleep. The mornings I'd woken up determined to be enough for my son. The life I'd built from nothing, because no one else was going to build it for me. I'd survived without Seo-Min. But maybe survival wasn't the same as living. Okay, I said. He blinked. Okay, you can try. But if you hurt him, if you hurt Min-jae, I will never forgive you. I won't. I promise. Don't promise. Just show up. I will. Over the next 3 months, Seo-Min showed up. He picked Min-jae up from kindergarten twice a week. Learned to make pancakes that didn't taste like cardboard. Attended the school play where Min-jae played a stegosaurus and forgot all his lines but roared anyway. He texted me photos. Asked questions about allergies and bedtime routines. Sent me articles about co-parenting with subject lines like, "Is this helpful or am I overthinking?" He was trying so hard it almost hurt to watch. And slowly, so slowly I barely noticed it happening, I stopped bracing for him to leave. One Saturday, he took us to the aquarium. Min-jae ran ahead, pressing his face against the glass to watch the sharks. He's obsessed, I said. Gets it from you. The obsession thing, I mean. You were like that about books. You remember that? I remember everything about you. He said it quietly, like a confession. I was just too afraid to show it. We stood side by side, watching our son point excitedly at a sea turtle. I've been working on something, I said. A new book. What's it about? Second chances. People who hurt each other but find a way back. He glanced at me. Does it have a happy ending? I don't know yet. I'm still writing it. His hand brushed mine. Just barely. Testing. I didn't pull away. That night, after we'd put Min-jae to bed at Seo-Min's apartment, we sat on the balcony overlooking the ocean. I finished the book, I said. Already? You just started. No. Echoes of the Vow. The one that won the prize. I'm publishing it under my real name this time. He looked at me, surprised. What changed? I'm not hiding anymore. Not from my past. Not from what happened between us. The book is about all of it. The marriage, the leaving, the years after. It's fiction, but it's also true. Can I read it? When it's published. Not before. Fair. He smiled slightly. Does the ending answer your question? About second chances? I looked out at the waves, dark and endless. I think some love stories don't end. They just pause. Wait for the people in them to grow into who they need to be. And have we? Grown into who we need to be? I turned to face him. I don't know. But I think we're trying. He reached out slowly, giving me time to move away. When I didn't, his hand covered mine. Ha-Joon, Don't. I squeezed his fingers. Not yet. Just, let this be enough for now. This is more than enough. We sat there as the moon rose, hands linked, saying nothing and everything. And for the first time in 6 years, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. Not as we were, but as something new. Something built on honesty instead of obligation. On choice instead of duty. On love that had been tested and broken and was slowly learning to heal. 6 months later, my book launched. The signing was in Seoul, full circle from where everything had fallen apart. The line stretched around the block. Readers, journalists, people who'd followed the story not just in my pages, but in the gossip columns that had tracked the mysterious author and the disgraced CEO. At the end of the line, a man in a dark coat waited. When he reached my table, I looked up. Seo-Min. He set down a small box. Min-jae made this. For both of us. I opened it. Inside, a crayon drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands under a sun. Words in wobbly letters, my family. Tears blurred my vision. Is the ending real, Ha-Joon? Seo-Min asked softly. In the book, the characters found each other again. Built something new. Chose love over fear. I looked at him. At the man who'd broken me and was spending every day trying to put me back together. At the father who showed up. At the person who'd finally learned what it meant to be seen. I don't know yet, I whispered. But I'd like to find out. He smiled. So would I. And in that moment, surrounded by people and noise and cameras, I realized something. Some vows were broken. But ours was just waiting for us to be brave enough to speak it again.